say it never rains in Southern California, but it's pouring in the Bay.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Secret Services Celebrity Psychic Readings. I'm going to be your reader for today, Quintari Shakir. Please make sure to go to www.blackspectrumnetwork.com to purchase a private psychic reading. Also, if you're looking for more exclusive content on things like ancestral worship and on other Black celebrities and public figures, please go to www.patreon.com/Black Spectrum Network. For as low as $2 a month, you can receive all of my content at least a week early. Please make sure that you check out my special that I'm currently running. Use the code NEGZO, NEG space ZO, or you can put in NEGZO, NEGZO together. And that will give you a $20 discount on all of my psychic readings. So the special is going to run until August the 15th. I'm going to return back to working, which means teaching my college courses. So I'll be doing that anyway. So we're going to get straight into this reading on Harriet Tubman. First, I'm going to the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a personality reading on Harriet Tubman. So 1 second. The first card that I get for Harriet Tubman is the Beggar card. This is talking about Harriet Tubman confronting empowerment at the levels of physical survival. So this is speaking specifically about her being born a slave. She felt that she felt that it was unnecessary for her to live a life as one of the most supreme beings on the planet, a Black woman. She felt that she needed to awaken within herself, her spiritual power, and she was able to do that through a devotion to God. She was I hear that she could read, and I'm also hearing that she was educating herself a lot about Christian theology, about the Bible, and she was very much well studied. She tried to be more like Jesus, and she felt that if Jesus was a representation of everyone, then she couldn't live as a slave and be like Jesus. So she felt that it was her mission on this planet to empower other people by making sure that they can physically survive in this world. So when we're thinking about Harriet Tubman and how she was this civil rights activist who freed many enslaved Africans, thousands, up to no, I think it was about 1,000 enslaved Africans, and the reason I say 1,000 is because she led the Combahee River raid. But the Beggar card is specifically reminding us that she awakened within herself a spiritual authority, where she felt it was her God-given mission to free the people that were around her from their mental chains. Specifically, white people around that time were mentally enslaved, and thinking that the world had to be this way, and that white supremacy was truly bringing peace for everyone, and it wasn't. And and she was trying to free those that were physically and mentally crippled by the transatlantic slave trade. So with all that being said, the next card is speaking about the exorcist. So this is speaking about her. I'm hearing and yes, I know who Harriet Tubman is. I don't know some of these celebrities, but I'm very familiar with Harriet Tubman. The exorcist card is speaking about her concussions, and this is saying that one thing that would happen to her when she would faint is that she would actually receive visions from God. She would essentially be possessed by the Holy Spirit. The exorcism card is saying that due to her concussions and her being able to access the Holy Spirit, while she was passed out, she was able to free herself from her own destructive impulses. And if you want to know what her destructive impulses were, those destructive impulses were this desire to remain a slave, the desire to not fight against the system. Sometimes she was fearful of being a part of the Underground Railroad. She was she was very distrusting of northern white people. I hear that very clearly. But the exorcism card is saying that she would receive visions specifically telling her this is a good white person to deal with. This is how you should this is how you strategize to free these people. These people actually don't want to be free. Don't even worry about them, and you can expect this person to betray you and create issues for you. So the exorcism card is incredibly beneficial to describing Harriet Tubman, because there were people that betrayed her, just as Jesus was betrayed, and God spoke to Jesus and foretold him of that betrayal. It was the same thing for Harriet Tubman. The warrior card had come out as well, and this is speaking about her using her strength, skill, and discipline, and her toughness to combat against white supremacy, to fight against the system. So in essence, you can think of Harriet Tubman as a very heroic figure. She is an American superhero, but it was her self-sacrifice that allowed for her to be successful as a civil rights activist. What distinguishes her from Nat Turner is that she did not allow for she had always been listening to spirit. Nat Turner had always been listening to spirit as well, but the difference that I hear between she and Nat Turner was that because of her concussion, she always had a relationship with spirit, and they told her when it was time to strike and when it was time to hide. And Nat Turner, on the other hand, he had always been receiving information from the spirit, but it was his ego that led him to rebelling. At a time when spirit told him not to. They had already told him to. They had already told Nat Turner to rebel at a certain point. It was like, okay, now is the time to do it, and he chose to maybe wait 2 or 3 days too late. But Harriet Tubman had conquered her ego, and the warrior card is speaking specifically about her ethical principles leading her to victory. And this is saying that she was obedient to spirit, listened, and that's why she lived. That's why she was able to infiltrate a liberal white community, northern white communities, and use their resources to help free enslaved Africans. I get the card for the guide, and this is talking about obviously her being a guide to those who are embarking on the Underground Railroad journey, and it also represents her being a spiritual guide to white people. She was teaching them how to have more humanity and compassion in life. She was helping to humanize white people and advancing their understandings of Africanness and what it meant to be a black person, and especially a black woman. They did, for the most part, feel like they were able to, use her, such as, we're actually in control, and, we're going to use her knowledge and information to get our agenda across, just as long as we can, just, unenslave these other Africans. But, we're going to also, how am I saying this? Nothing really, we know from what history tells us that, after the Civil War, not too much changed for Northern and Southern blacks. As far as the amount of prejudice and discrimination, lynchings were still an issue. after the civil rights movement, but well, not the civil rights. Well, we can call the Civil War a civil rights movement. I mean, there were multiple civil rights movements, Nat Turner's being one. But I'm digressing. But the guide card is speaking specifically about her being a guide to white people, and her advancing their understandings of humanness, and trying to, she just had to find the silver lining, in the situation, which was, I have to. Advance society, and I have to guide, my people to the north, to freedom, and I have to guide these white people out of their mental enslavement because they feel that this is how things must be. I get the card for the engineer. So this is saying that she designed her own weapons. She designed her own plans. She helped to advance the she helped to advance the ways in which the Underground Railroad operated. She also taught, I'm hearing that she taught other slaves how to, and I hate saying the word slaves, so forgive me. So when I say slaves, I mean enslaved Africans, but she was teaching enslaved Africans how to be more discreet in in their to be more discreet and more stealthy as they followed along the Underground Railroad, such as covering their tracks and knowing how to conceal their odors, keeping a gun on them, how to build weapons, what was and wasn't poisonous in the forest, things of that nature. And so with all that being said, Harriet Tubman was very creative in how she was creative in how she worked with other people in the Underground Railroad. It was like, she wasn't someone that participated in witchcraft, but what she did do what she did do, however, was she would allow for those people to bless her head. I can say it that way. We'll work together. Your God and my God, but we have the same agenda. And this is incredibly important because she was doing this work during a time when non-Christianity was incredibly stigmatized, but she had this interesting relationship with Christianity where she was a devout Christian, and she was already practicing what James Cone would call a liberation theology. She'd been doing that at an early age to negotiate this internal struggle with Christianity, and being having grown up in a society where white people were teaching her that the Bible justified her position in society. I get the card for the victim. This is saying that she prevented herself from being victimized in life. She prevented others from being victimized in life, and that was her soul's mission, was to bring them out of their mental and physical chains. And I'm talking specifically about enslaved Africans here. At the same time, with her relationship with white people, they did treat her as though she was this fragile character. But what she had to show to them was that she was militant, that she was a statistician, that she understood math and numbers, that she knew how to read maps, and she knew her enemy better than they did. That by being a black woman, people would underestimate her, and she could play the role of a maid and acquire, very, very confidential information from the South, and she was very well networked woman. And then we get the card for the slave. So this is talking about her being someone that was incredibly obedient. She surrendered completely to the power of the divine. So those little whispers that were saying, "Hey, run away. Hey, kill that person. Hey, if they get in your way, just take them out. Hey, you got to free your people." That's what she cared about. Okay, and by her being obedient to the Spirit, that's why she celebrated honored and venerated in American society as this this gorgeous civil rights superhero. With that being said, her surrendering to the divine allowed for her to lead other people that were enslaved out of slavery. So then we get the card for the advocate, and this is saying very much obviously that she used her inspiration and compassion to fuel the actions that that helped the North to defeat the South. And I'm speaking. We're going to talk a lot about the Cumbie Ferry raid in just a second. But that's the personality reading on Harriet Tubman. That was quite interesting, actually. Didn't expect those cards to come out. Okay, so we're about to do a bone reading on Harriet Tubman. Okay, so my first I'm gonna try to do a bone reading on her overall situation just to get a good understanding of who Harriet Tubman was, what her missions were, her life purpose, her life path, was she on, was she off. I just want to see what Spirit has to say. Okay. So I get a three the three of action over the no speed limit. This is saying that Harriet Tubman took action and she was active on a every day. She never slacked off. She took no days off. Her mind was always thinking of she was always thinking of a plan. As long as there were people that were enslaved, she felt that she had a job to do, because she's saying to herself that there's one more life out there that we have to change. There's one more enslaved person that I have to free. I get the cemetery gate over the heart, and this is saying that she did this work. And she did this work. It came from the bottom of her heart. So the cemetery gate represents things that are sleeping that need to be awakened. So she awakened within her her heart's desires, and this is her soul signed up for this work, and she actually enjoyed freeing enslaved people. I'm hearing that she got an adrenaline rush from it. I get a closed calorie over the research token, and this is saying that she actually didn't do a lot of research into her first runaway attempt, that she was still very successful, actually, that she acquired a lot of information from that attempt. I get the wedding ring over the graduation cap, and this is saying that she in the afterlife has now become an ancestor, that she I don't think that Harriet Tubman has reincarnated. I think that Harriet Tubman's soul has now graduated, and she's now advanced herself to become an ancestor, and she sits with her her life partner. I get an open calorie over Jesus Christ. So this is saying that she was someone that always practiced forgiveness, and she did it from the bottom of her heart. I get the woman over the judge over the sentence token, and this is speaking specifically about her sentence in the afterlife. So she was sentenced to becoming an ancestor. I get a quarter over the scale. So this is saying that this is talking about judgment. So they were saying that this is saying that and being that it's a 5, it's saying that she had a very even, like she was very like the Libra scale kept tilting back and forth when she stood at the at the I would say I'm trying to think of what they called it in ancient Egypt, where before the god Amit would devour your heart. It's basically saying that that the scale tipped backwards and forwards. It tipped backwards and forwards, but then they saw that her heart weight was lighter than a feather, and she then reincarnated, became an ancestor. I get an owl token over the Agungun, and this is speaking specifically about her wisdom and her ancestors were quite pleased with the wisdom that she had acquired in her lifetime, and how she was able to find the Holy Spirit within her, and they allowed for her to pass through the cemetery gates in a different way. I get the intelligence token and the turtle over the Wi-Fi, and these two tokens are speaking specifically about her ancestral connection. They're saying that this is talking about her concussion, because the intelligence token is saying that her some people can be so in their heads that they overthink spirituality. They make it very complicated. They are like, they can't get out of their heads. They have to intellectualize everything. Everything must be understood from a scientific standpoint. If it doesn't follow the law of cause and effect, it doesn't make sense. And I'm talking about the scientific law of cause and effect, not the spiritual law. And I get the turtle over this as well, but it's on its back. So this is saying that she was very slow and meticulous about how she dealt with her. She was very slow. She was meticulous, careful, and thoughtful about how she dealt with her ancestors. I'm hearing that she actually did do ancestral worship in that she prayed to her mother, she prayed to her grandmother, she prayed to the ancestors that came before her, because she knew that she had to create radical change in the world and be the person that participated in it and led the radical change. So the intelligence token being over the Wi-Fi would mean that she didn't allow for her brain to get in the way. She kept everything simple, and that allowed for her to acquire this deep ancestral connection that so many people look for. I get an open calorie over the curse. So this is saying that in her lifetime that she was cursed, that her concussion was actually a curse over her, that it was that she had no other choice but to be obedient. So when this is saying that she had no other choice but to be a leader. She was called into doing her work. And if she didn't do her work, she was just going to continue having the concussions. They would have been of no value to her, stressed her out, and she probably would have died of a heart attack or a stroke very early. I get the 3 of action over the Black Panther. And this is saying that the community loved her. And she loved the community, and she took action to build.
Been a long time, but I still got a love for you, and that won't ever change. San Jose, they say it never rains in Southern California, but it's pouring in the Bay. San Jose, girl, I know we try to tell ourselves those lies.